Hi, I'm Rich Ribeiro. The Terrell Fund is committed to educating the public about the need to support New Jersey's infants and toddlers right from the start. That's why we're proud to support the important early childhood programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by New Jersey Resources, the Terrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, RWJ Barnabas Health, Verizon, NJM Insurance Group, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, and by the law firm of Gibbons PC. Promotional support provided by NJ Advance Media and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. It is my honor, my pleasure to welcome all of you. This is a forum that we are taping on the future of urban education, focused largely in the city of Newark, where we happen to be right now. But this program is relevant for those of you who care about the children, the students in urban school districts in the state of New Jersey and across the region, where we're seeing in multiple states and across this nation. We're at the North Ward Center in Newark, New Jersey, a community-based, not-for-profit organization. We have gathered a group of folks together who care deeply about this issue. It is my honor, my pleasure to introduce 9 very distinguished panelists right now. We're pleased to welcome Sarah Kay, Director of Corporate Giving at Prudential Financial, Michele Adubato, Chief Executive Officer of the North Ward Center, Robert Gregory, Deputy Superintendent of the Newark Public Schools. We're pleased to welcome from Jersey City, Dr. Marcia Lyles, who is Superintendent of the Jersey City Public Schools, the Mayor of the great city of Newark Brick City, Mayor Baraka, Chris Cerf, Superintendent of the Newark Public Schools, also previously the Commissioner of Education in the state, Michele Mason, Executive Director of the Newark Charter School Fund, State Senator Teresa Ruiz, who is the Chairperson of the Senate Education Committee and the Assistant Majority Leader in the State Senate, and finally, Dr. Benjamin Justice, Professor of the Graduate School of Education at Rutgers University. I want to thank all of you for joining us to be part of this historic and important conversation. Mayor, let me start with you. Right now, as we speak in the city of Newark, a transition is taking place from 20-plus years of the state being in control, if you will, of the Newark Public Schools to what is called local control. Why is that so important?
Well, I think it gives us a level of momentum that we have been, longing for a very long time. It's like moving into a new building. At the end of the day, people feel confident, encouraged, excited. It's like a new beginning, and I think we have to capitalize on that moment to get people more engaged, involved in moving the school district forward, and then imagining a school system, 5, 10, 15 years from now.
And Superintendent, put this in context. The state of New Jersey took over the Newark Public Schools, involved, if you will, in a very big way in Jersey City and in Patterson as well. So each school district, each urban school district in New Jersey, different situation. But in Newark right now, what do you feel, Superintendent, the biggest challenges and opportunities are facing the Newark Public Schools?
Well, first of all, I think that transitioning to local control is the right thing to do. It's the right time to do it. And the reason I believe that is because there has been a foundation built where we're seeing a great deal of progress. The city is moving forward. The schools are moving forward. And it's time for the people of Newark to take ownership and control of the schools where, after all, their children go. Senator
Ruiz, you not only are the chair of the Senate Education Committee, but you've been outspoken on behalf of the students of the city of Newark. How would you describe the 20-plus year experiment, if you will, an experience with the state being in control of Newark Public Schools?
A failed one, long overdue for us to take over. I think the problem with just the way we couch it, right? Take over of a school district.
Sure.
when we're having conversations now at the State House, and we assume that maybe in the next decade or so, there will be districts that are going to be in need of the Department of Education's assistance, we should really be talking about a partnership with the state. And I think if we couch it in a different way, then generations to come, if in fact they are in need of help and oversight, maybe the pathway will be different. But in the nearly 2 decades that the state was here, up until just a while ago, there was little to no progress happening in the district, and a lot of changeover, a lot of turmoil, a lot of changes, and so being done unto us. And it was almost kind of this bipolar approach in the sense that when you went down to the state and people would talk about the district of Newark, they would talk about it to us, not recognizing that it was them who was in charge. So it was kind of like a weird dynamic, but turning the page and moving forward, we're in a good space, we're in a good place. The transition is being prepared. There's a new administration that's coming in at the State House. There are school board elections that will be happening. There are parents
in the city of Newark to elect members of the Board of Education.
Correct. There are parents and students and teachers who finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it means more responsibility for all of us.
Michele, jump in. By the way, you happen to be the host of this event here at the North Ward Center. There was a reason why we wanted to do this, and you have deep thoughts and feelings about this. Share.
Well, I have deep thoughts and feelings because, like we said, I said, as a veteran of Newark Public Schools.
You're a principal in the Newark Public
Principal,
Schools.
social worker, teacher.
At Great Central High School.
Totally mirror what Senator Ruiz said. It felt like a takeover. I was there. It was a takeover, and with minimal and marginal effects. And it is an exciting time.
Scary?
Totally scary. And it's an exciting time, but we really need to remember how we got here. Although the state may have not done it, which I say, absolutely, they made many mistakes. But there was a reason why that takeover happened, and we need never to forget why that happened.
Well, let's put that out there. What were some of the reasons, some of the primary reasons that the state, based on the 1947 Constitution that said that the state of New Jersey, the state is ultimately responsible for the education of public school children, which gave them, I imagine, the legal and constitutional right to come in and take over, if you will. That was where it came from. It didn't just say, okay, and I don't know if you can do that in every state. But the conditions that the state deemed to be warranting that action. Dr. You've been in Jersey City for 6 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Going on 6 years, yes.
The current situation right now in terms of the state's role in Jersey City is?
Well, we are transitioning to full local control. But unlike Newark, we have had major parts of control for quite some time. Since 2008, we had governance and finance control over those areas. And 2 years ago, we got control over personnel and operations. So we are now transitioning into taking total control over our instructional program.
Looking forward to that?
Absolutely. We've actually been operating the last few years as though we had control. And we've just been moving forward. We've been making a lot of progress. And so our goal is to build upon what we've been doing.
Let's broaden the conversation this way. There are folks who are watching us in 5 or 6 states that we're actually seeing right now. People see us online anywhere across the country, or the world, if you will. On our website, you'll see right now being put up. There are many folks, most folks don't live in cities. Most folks don't really understand urban education. Many folks wonder, and we had this conversation with some of you in one-on-one interviews, hey, why can't those kids perform the way a kid would, say, in Short Hills, Millburn, New Jersey? More resources, right? More money, whatever. Question, Doctor, from your perspective, and when you talked about this with me in the interview, any reason why a student in Newark, well, let's try it this way. What are some of the challenges being faced by students in the Newark public schools that may not be faced in a wealthier suburban community?
Sure. To step back just one step, Newark and cities like Newark didn't just happen by accident. They happened through policy. The suburbs exist in relation to the cities. And so we have to remember that when we talk about local control, there are different ways of thinking about what local control is. One is about resource hoarding, and we don't want to see that because the state has a responsibility to all its children, right? But there's another form of local control that we are interested in, which is public schools are responsive to the communities and the families and the children that they serve. And what we want to do is we want to strike that right balance. So to your question, now I'll step forward again into your question. If your question is, what are the challenges that the students face? Well, their families have very different degrees of wealth. Their communities have different degrees of wealth. Their cities and municipalities have different degrees of wealth and different resources available to them. And of course, we all know that that shapes how well students are going to do in school and how well schools can serve them. And so, you know, the big question, the future of urban education, the answer for me is at least in part, well, what's the future of urban? What's the future of cities?
So you don't separate them. Mayor, do you separate them, the future of the cities of America versus the future of the public school systems in urban communities in America? Do you separate them?
Absolutely not. I think one point he made that I think that I want to push back against is that there is a significant amount of wealth created in these cities. It just doesn't stay here.
Explain that.
The wealth of the cities serves suburban communities because people come here and make money and go back to where they are. I mean, it was organized systemically that way. You know, after World War II, the federal government organized, these cities invested in and subsidized suburban sprawl and growth. And people went there and they subsidized their housing, they built roads, they did all of that to create an opportunity for people to come to the cities, make money and go back out to the suburbs. As a result of that, the institutions that are in the community don't necessarily respond to or are organized around the people in this community, which is why I think local control and community schools and all that is important, because really what you're trying to do is right-size that. Get those institutions to, in fact, now serve the residents and the students there to, like they do in any other community, We take for granted, families and parents that organize events for the school to get basketball uniforms or football uniforms or trips or opportunities for after-school programming where they pay for all of these things because they have the resources to do so. Most of those things are provided to residents in this city for free or have to be subsidized tremendously because they don't have the income to support the kind of things that's necessary to create a whole child, right? So the district has to use money to, in fact, support that. They have to, where other cities pay for summer school, we have summer school for free, right? And there are people who try to come into our summer school for free, by the way. But
you're saying who may not even be residents of the city?
Oh, absolutely. But or other kind of options and opportunities. But and we're trying to organize the city so that it affects and supports the young people and the families of this community. And that's basically what we're trying to, turn upside down, or right side up, I should say.
Let's talk a little bit more. Michele, I know you want to come in, but I want to ask you this, Sarah, because we talked about this in our in-depth one-on-one interview, about the role of the corporate community. It's interesting. Prudential is a very important institution in this city. Been here for a few years, Prudential?
140 years.
140 years. Put this in context. Why is Prudential so committed, because it's not just Prudential Financial, it's Prudential, the foundation itself. Why so committed and involved in the Newark public schools, and is in fact that the role of a corporation?
Well, as you stated, we were founded and we're still headquartered here over 140 years ago. And we were founded in the city and we've remained committed to being in the city. And that means really making sure that Newark is a thriving community. And part of being a thriving community is having a high quality public education. A high quality education provides pathways for students from underserved communities for economic mobility. It provides the future workforce that we need and educating them with the right skill sets so that they can be successful when they go into college and careers. And it contributes to the economic vitality of this community. And so as a corporation, we definitely feel that it is our responsibility and our commitment to partner with the stakeholders in the city. That includes everybody from the students, the teachers, the parents, our corporate peers, public agencies, and just really making sure that we can help improve. And I think we're seeing a lot of the successes that everybody has just mentioned.
There's been progress. We'll talk about that in a moment.
To see more Caucus New Jersey with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
I want to go back to some of the conditions and the challenges facing children, students in urban areas. But here's another question. That's a corporate role. We're here at the North Ward Center, an organization, if you want to research, it was founded by our dad over 40 years ago. You happen to be the leader of this organization now. What is the role of nonprofits, particularly this organization, other great, La Casa de Don Pedro, right around the corner here, New Community Corporation, great organizations. What is the role of nonprofits in urban education, particularly here in Newark?
Community-based organizations need to invest in services and support. Newark public schools should not exist in a silo. We have a responsibility.
Nonprofits?
Absolutely. If you're in Newark and you're a nonprofit, you have a responsibility to Newark and to the students, whether it's with the services, whether it's sharing of educational ideas, sharing of support. I believe that that's our obligation. And the North Ward Center, for 45 years, starting with my dad, understood that when he was a teacher at Broadway Elementary, believe it or not.
Broadway, then Broadway Junior High School, where some of us attended.
Yeah, and we do have a responsibility. And if we're here in Newark and our zip code is in Newark, our services should reflect and support the really wonderful work. But we have so far to go that the mayor started, that our superintendent, Surf, is moving forward, and that the teachers and the principals need our support.
So you jump in, Robert, because I also want to, Chris, and I'll come back to you, Superintendent. Go ahead.
Yeah, Michele brings up an important point, and that is we can't exist in silos. If we
What do you mean in a silo? Isn't it the devil's advocate? Isn't it the responsibility of a school district, of the superintendent of the school district, of the school board of that school district, of the teachers, of the principals, the administrators? Isn't it their job?
I would argue that in urban America, we have been waiting for Superman for far too long.
Or Superwoman. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This isn't about a hero. This is more so about a host, a convener, someone who can collaborate with varied stakeholders, which in fact we need to begin to influence things in a child's life. We all have to work for one centralized mission, right? One goal, and that goal has to be better outcomes for our students. And so when we think about that, we have to embrace certain principles, one being equal finality. And that
equal
is,
finality?
Yeah, that is there are multiple pathways to the same exact outcomes. And in disadvantaged communities where intergenerational poverty exists, those pathways are often negative ones. What we have to do is develop a comprehensive approach to develop pathways to positive outcomes, and we have to embrace this whole notion of equity, not necessarily
Define
equality.
Equity. Sorry for interrupting. The difference between equity and equality is?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between the two, right? So when we talk about equity, it is about meeting one where they are and working towards getting them to a common goal across that finish line. Equality is pretty much giving everybody the same thing.
That's not happening. And that's never going to happen.
Well,
in terms of resources,
I would argue that it is happening.
Technically, it is happening, but we have to
argue that equality
artificially.
is happening?
Yeah, in some places, yeah.
But giving the same resources,
that's what the people say now, you know?
Well, there's no question that the schools, the school district is accountable for results. The state has a duty set in the Constitution to assure there are quality schools, and ultimately that's why, for example, the state sends something like $850 million a year from the general treasury to Newark, but the responsibility is a shared one. And why do we have that responsibility?
Why is that?
It's because the fundamental question that I think all moral people have to confront is that every individual on this earth is born into different circumstances and different opportunities, a fact that is entirely out of their control. For me, the difference between equity and equality, one defines the final state, the outcome, and one defines giving everybody an equal chance regardless of the circumstances into which they were born.
What is owed to these children?
What is
outcome
owed?
Or opportunity?
That's a very political question.
Okay, so I asked a political question.
I will tell you that the mission of the school system is equality of opportunity. The ultimate social objective should be greater levels of equality.
But the only way you achieve that is by making sure there's equity.
Right.
Yes.
And the only
Right.
way you do that is by, I coined artificially recreating family support services. We talked about the suburban, urban, what is the difference? So when there's stability and there's safety and the neighborhoods are not ridden with poverty or with drug crime or activity, what type of violence, what type of what do those events do to our students different from somebody else? So we have to artificially recreate those wraparound services. So when you hear the panelists say it requires a whole totality, it's exactly that. It's critically important for us to have social service providers within our school facilities. It's critical for us to take note of our breakfast programs before the bell, unlike maybe other families in other districts.
Because if a kid is hungry?
It's can't learn. Can't learn. It's critical for us to have an intimate relationship with our teachers, with our families, to be sure, you know, if that mom happens to have a child in kindergarten and that child is expecting a sibling, does she have access to high quality prenatal care? Because if she doesn't, all of that has trigger effects to the outcome of that child. And when we talk about bridging the gap, never mind that if we don't start at the same spot.
Yeah, and by the way, stay on that, Senator. Folks, we're doing another initiative which is very much tied to this conversation, and Senator Ruiz has been kind enough to participate in it. It's simply called Right from the Start NJ, which deals with the needs of infants and babies, 0 to 3. The early childhood, I'm just thinking about this with our 4 kids, the early childhood experiences from 0 to 3 and the opportunities that they have had living in Montclair, not the same. Talk about equity, not the same opportunities, not the same services in terms of 0 to 3, which matters in terms of student performance later on. Michele, is that a fair assessment? I know you're coming in and you have a charter school perspective on this, but you care deeply about these children. It makes a difference.
Sure. You know, Senator Ruiz has done a lot on early childhood. And
That's right.
There's a lot of statistics on like language acquisition and between 0 and 3, the number of words that students in urban communities hear or exposed to as opposed to their peers in the suburbs. And so, you know, the inequities early on, like as Senator Ruiz started, are important to address to bridge some of these gaps.
While we still have a long way to go in this state, and I think everybody would agree on that, there are things that we should be proud of that the state has done with pre-K, the Abbott decisions. We have been in some ways a national leader on this issue in addressing the early childhood needs of children. And that is something that New Jersey has done right. And I think that is something that we need to recognize as we're having this conversation.
We have 700 preschoolers under Abbott Preschool here at the North Ward.
700?
700. They are
Ages?
prepared. Ages 3 to 5.
How much does that matter for their future success? And by the way, we should fully disclose that Senator Ruiz
I taught here, underneath this floor.
Senator Ruiz, before she became one of the most prominent members of the state legislature, the chair of the Senate Education Committee, the number 2 person, if you will, in the Democratic majority in the state Senate, you were a preschool teacher.
It was pre-Abbott, just for full disclosure.
Yeah. How much did you love doing that?
Loved it.
Because?
And that's when you know the disservice that we're doing for children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you ever have an opportunity to spend time with a 3 and a 4-year-old. I have a 1-year-old at home, and it is extraordinary the vocabulary that she's already has amassed. And it's not because she's unique. It's because she has a support network surrounding her to encourage her to learn. And when we expose 3 and 4-year-olds to high quality preschool settings that create that support network that encourage them to learn, when you get a child September who's gripping at the door because screaming, that's all you hear the first week in September, and doesn't even speak the language, and then you can be doing, you know, circle time 4 weeks later, and that child fully understands what's happening. It's an extraordinary thing. And it's not unique to one child. It's the opportunity that we have to give to every child.
It's funny you talk about 3 and 4, but your daughter is 1,
Yes.
and so it's also 0 to 3.
It absolutely is.
You can see that the 9 folks that we have brought together talking about the future of urban education, have different perspectives, valuable perspectives, important perspectives. So I'm going to do this. We'll continue our conversation, but I'm going to ask you to stay with us. This is a multi-part series looking at the future of urban education. A lot of it's about Newark. Some of it's about Jersey City, but all of it is about the children, the millions of children in the public schools in urban communities across this nation. Catch us next time.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by New Jersey Resources, the Turl Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, RWJ Barnabas Health, Verizon, NJM Insurance Group, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by the law firm of Gibbons PC. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.
NJM Insurance Company has been serving New Jersey policyholders for more than 100 years. But just who are NJM's policyholders? There are medical care and emergency management providers, service professionals, men and women that move us and the goods and products we use each day, and New Jersey's next generation of leaders, the people who make our state a great place to call home. NJM, we've got New Jersey covered.